For my 40th birthday, I planned a trip to Iceland with my wife. We spent 10 days, and I brought a GFX 100S and one drone. If you enjoyed this video, stick around while I share photos from a 102 megapixel camera, the locations we visited, the hotels we stayed in, and although this was a trip of a lifetime, I can't wait to get back again. Hi, my name's Eli. If you're new to the channel, I am a self-proclaimed camera nerd, and I'm in love with the Fujifilm GFX system. If you're not new, welcome back. I created this video mainly to show off just Fujifilm's capability as well as the beauty of Iceland and just kind of give you some tips. So it's going to kind of be a little bit of a broad sense. You might be here to learn how to get around Iceland, where to go, the hotspots, or you might be here just to see some pretty pictures with the Fujifilm GFX. I took the GFX 100S with me. It was 2 years ago. It took me a while to get these pictures out just because, there's just a lot to go through. It's personal work and just wanted to make sure it was perfect before I finished this gallery up. If you'd like to see all of the images from my trip, feel free to go on Instagram and message me, and I can send you the full link if you'd like to see that. If not, there's just plenty of images on my website at eliroberts.com. You can follow the link in the description to see all those images as well as all the GPS locations that I stayed. So, this trip was phenomenal. It was a trip of a lifetime. Like I said, I can't wait to go back. Iceland is just beautiful. We were there in April, and the weather was a bit on the chilly side. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so it was about on par for what I'm used to. So I had all the gear. I was capable of keeping warm and hiking and just having a good time and wasn't afraid of the rain. And so, I just want to walk through just the web page I've built and kind of show you some of the highlights as well as some of the beautiful images. I shot all this on the GFX 100S. This here is the GFX 102, the upgraded version. The sensor, in my opinion, is very similar as far as image quality. But 100 megapixel, 102. And I rented some lenses that I didn't have to fill in some gaps. And it was a blast. If there's anything I love more than photography, it's traveling and being with my family. Obviously, we did not take our little one with us on this trip. We left her at home, so we could just kind of just do our thing and we did miss her. About 8 days in, we were like, all right, our trip was 10 days. Like, we're ready to get back to her. And so, but it was just a phenomenal time, a great time to be with my family, my wife, and just experience life with her again without a child and just enjoy her company. And I love her a lot. So it was great to have her along for the journey. Wouldn't have been the same without her. Let's look at this trip of a lifetime. So a lot of words that you can read if you'd like, but we drove around 3,000 miles. We left our little girl behind. This image here on the right is with the 45 millimeter. There are a few iPhone photos mixed in as well as drone, just because it was a little easier just to take those. But here we went up to Seattle from Bend, Oregon, and we went to the Alaska Lounge, which is phenomenal if you have that ability. We rented through Blue Car Rental. And this car, I can't remember how much we paid, but it was very reasonable. We did get all of the insurances that were available. They'll insure tires, windshield, because you can get some heavy winds, and they do make sure that you know that you cannot insure the doors. So if you open the doors with the wind and they get ripped off or bent, you're paying for it. So that is the one thing you cannot insure. So just have to make sure you're thinking about that. But the Dacia Duster think that's how you say it, was like kind of like a RAV4 with no frills, manual windows, and these these cars are pretty beat up. And so it would have been fun to have something cool like a Defender, but we didn't have the budget for that at the moment. Spent most of it on hotels. So this is basically a rough estimate. I couldn't really get Google Maps to map all the locations we went to because you run out of destinations, limits you. So we basically started at the airport. We drove to a volcano. We went to Sky Lagoon and Reykjavik. We drove through the south. We stayed in the south for 3 nights, and then we drove up to the north up here. Then we went and visited the big waterfall. We went here to stay in an Airbnb. We drove through here and stayed over on this side. We skipped the West Fjords because it was a little early. We ran out of time and we just didn't know if our car was capable. But I heard this is very beautiful. Then we went down to the really neat little black church, and then we went over to the tomato farm, and then here. So you can always use this as a reference of this was, with going back and forth, we drove around 3,000 miles. So the country is pretty big. The main beautiful parts are the ice fields in the south, mainly right here where this giant ice field is, where it meets the ocean and lagoons and pools, and just beautiful. So we grabbed some breakfast right as we landed. We did an overnight flight. We went to the famous volcano that currently is erupting. We were in between eruptions, but it was steaming. We hiked up. It was a little chilly and windy, but just looking over, just already amazed. Just feels like you're on another planet. I relate Iceland very much to like Hawaii without the vegetation, and much colder. So there's the volcano behind us. And then hiking down, you can see the fresh lava flows from the last year. And then we went straight to Sky Lagoon. We saved Blue Lagoon for last. Sky Lagoon was a new lagoon. It's all man-made. I'm pretty sure the springs are natural but pumped in, but just phenomenal. A great way to just like first see Iceland. These pools are well over 100 degrees. In some areas, I think it was like 108, 109 degrees. And then they have a cold plunge pool. They also have, I don't have pictures of it, but we went inside and there's like some steam rooms and some salt bathrooms and just like a whole spa treatment you can do. And we did that, which is over here on the right. You go in this little cave and all kinds of stuff in there. But just beautiful views. You can swim up. There's like a pool bar. I think I showed, I don't think I have a picture of it, but you can go swim up to a bar and get a beer or soda or whatever you want. And so then we checked into our hotel. We took a nap because it was still probably around 1 o'clock. We FaceTimed our little one, and then we just started hitting the streets. And just a beautiful city full of fun art, just weird art, all kinds of just interesting things. And then lots of good food. We found this food court that had like a sit-down bar restaurant, not a lot of seats, but they cook right in front of you. This food was phenomenal. It was so good. I'm still missing it. We ate here twice, on the first night and the last night. And yeah, just so good. It's called Skull. There's a link up there in the description. Then we ate breakfast. Then we hit the road to the south. This is our first waterfall. We're not going to try and pronounce any of these words just because I'm going to butcher them. But there are links so you can find them all, map it out for yourself. And just a beautiful waterfall. This is probably one of my more favorite images from the trip. This and another waterfall. Just you see Fuji's colors are just so vibrant. I have a 102 megapixel photo here with a 23 millimeter. That's just stunning. And so going on, I just had to pull over like nonstop and take photos. I should have had my wife drive, but I do love driving. And just beautiful. There's all these little cabins everywhere. There's so many places to stay that are just phenomenal. And just a cloudy, cool, probably around 55 degrees, a little misty, and just someone's house with a waterfall in the background. Just had to pull over, take a photo. And this was, I don't even know what this was, but we climbed the little fence here and went inside this little hut. And then this is probably one of the more famous waterfalls, and just beautiful, very crowded. The closer you get, the less people there are. So we're able to get a photo with our tripod. I used a tripod, the Peak Design tripod. And I used just a really cheap remote just to capture on a timer, or you can use interval timer too, but it's easier if I just push the button to know that it's clicking. So if you're interested in any of those, I'll put a link in the description for the one that I use now. It's a little bit more advanced and a little bit better range. And so we hiked to the top of that, and you can keep going. There's more falls. We just barely touched the surface on a lot of these places. There's just so much to see, but you know, time is limited. It was a really good fish and chips place right at that waterfall. We ate there. And then we just kept driving, and we drove to this little ice field here, or giant ice field. You can go on ice field tours, and they'll rope you up and put you, I think, in like a dry suit, or some sort of suit to keep you safe in case you fall, because they are very dangerous and they're really large. So, yeah, just kind of sitting on the edge of it, checking it out, and just no one out here. Stopped in at this little brew house for some soup. Really good soup and bread and really good beer. And just, yeah, just a few views of just, oh, it's so pretty, just on the edge of the ocean there. And then we drove to this spot to see these columns. Very, very cool. See a lot of these photos. Instagram. And then we drove not far. We drove up here on this, there's a lighthouse up here, and it overlooks, I think it's called Endless Black Beach, it's called. And yeah, here there was a bunch of puffins. They were in season in April. I don't know when their season is, other than the fact that they were there in April. And just this view is just stunning. One thing to note too is in Iceland, the sun just kind of does this horseshoe thing where it kind of loops from the north, south, and then comes back. So it's never really overhead. So you always have this really pretty light when the sun is out. And just, yeah, beautiful views. Just mind blowing. The whole time I was just overwhelmed. And then we stayed at this hotel, Kira. It was great. Good breakfast. And then you're driving along and you stop at these little viewpoints where you just climb up top here. I think this was a restroom as well. And you can see out over the mountains. And this is a really cool canyon we stopped at. You'll see some of that drone footage from this place in the beginning video intro. And some drone photos. Just very, very pretty. Through these, and then just these roads are just so beautiful. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. And then we get off-road a little bit just for fun, just kind of got off the main road just a little bit just to make coffee. Basically, I brought a grinder and a jet boil and a bunch of really nice coffee. And a lot of these places you'll be driving and it's just lava fields and water, so there's not a lot of places to pull over, except like right here you could pull over. So it's hard to not stop and take a photo. There's nowhere to pull over, so we'd pull off. This is another spot we pulled off for coffee. And then we just saw this ice field as we were driving, and there was a pull off, so we hiked to it, and it was really pretty. The water was a little mucky here, but there are some glacial lagoons, really blue. So here, just taking it all in. Not a lot of people here, and I flew over this ice field just to get some perspective of, these are super vast canyons, and just you need a human here to really get the scale of this. Here's a human right here, me, laying down, taking a photo, and just kind of see the size of these big chunks of ice. And this here, Foss Hotel Glacial Lagoon is phenomenal. They have it's just a really cool, Icelandic vibe, really nice rooms, really good food. And they have, here's the rooms. You see horse on the menu. Here's it on the higher end menus. Couldn't do it. I've seen horse in Italy. I've been to over 23 countries in the world, and I've only seen horse in Europe and here. So just amazing meal, and then a really nice hot tub. There were, I think, 2 of them out here. Yeah, 2 of them. And so, yeah, just enjoying the views. It's just beautiful. We had breakfast, and then we went out early for a hike, and we hiked up to this other canyon. I just love this photo on the right here. This is the 100 to 200 millimeter, which I didn't use a lot because it's a 5.6 aperture, but yeah, really pretty. And just my beautiful wife enjoying her tea in the morning. So we hiked up this canyon, and man, it is just gorgeous. It wasn't a hard hike, but these little, really long waterfalls are everywhere. It's ridiculous. You can look back and just see these crazy vast views of Iceland. Birds flying around, lots of birds. Let's see for scale, little person, didn't know that person, but up there. Then we went, that ice field, just so beautiful. Then we went to this little ice filled lagoon, and we ended up coming back here for the Northern Lights later. I think the same night. It's a long day. But look at this huge ice field. This is also in the beginning footage of the intro. And just driving, we drove pretty much all the way to the southeast corner, I think, this day. We stopped in Hoffen, which was pretty far east. And we had langoustine at this little restaurant, these little shrimp. And then we went just from there to this point here, which is just gorgeous. There's the first Viking village. From what we were told, the Vikings came here, they cut down all the trees, and there's no trees in the south because they didn't plant any. So we did find some in the north, some forests that were planted, but this was the first Viking village. And yeah, this beach was just beautiful. These little dunes up here. We made coffee and just hung out and had a little pretty sunset over this really glassy, I guess, I don't know if it's a lake or ocean, I'm not sure, bay. And then we drove back. We stopped at Diamond Beach. Diamond Beach on the way out had like hardly any glaciers. And so the tide comes out of Glacier Lagoon, which the tides I think are around 11 or 12 feet up there. I'm not positive, but they're pretty high and low. And they sucks out all of these big old chunks of ice out of Glacier Lagoon. And then the waves wash them back up. And I put some flashlights in some, and they kind of look like they're like brittle glass. You know, it's just really pretty. I put a flashlight on this one, climbed up on it. It's like the size of a car. And there's Glacier Lagoon right there, Glacier Lagoon. Really pretty. And here's where they get sucked out, right here. So this looks like a rushing river when the tides are going in and out. It's pretty wild. And then that night, we think we went back to our room and then came out and drove to the first spot that we stopped. And around 1:30 in the morning, the sun had left the sky as far as daylight, and the Northern Lights showed up. There's a lot of apps you can follow. You can follow our websites to kind of see when they're visible. And so, yeah, you can, my wife was on that, but popped out. It was 28 degrees, a little chilly, but we kind of took some flashlights, hiked up on this ridge, took some photos. And then on the way back from our hotel, we stopped. I took one photo. And I think this little circle in the middle was a mistake on my part. I think I left the ibis on. I think that's what caused that, but a little bit of a bummer, but live and learn. The next morning we got up, stopped for all the views. We finally saw our first Icelandic horses hanging out. Stopped again at Diamond Beach and just checked it out again. And then we kept going. We found this swan, female swan and a male swan. And I guess she lays on the eggs and he protects her. Kind of cool. And then as we wrap around the east side, southeast, you're met with these views that are just beautiful. And then we were driving and I saw on Google Maps that there was this little hot spring. So we pulled over and we found this, and this pool was piping hot. There was nobody there. It was the warmest day. I bet on a snowy day this would be ridiculously cool, but it was probably, no lie, like 110 degrees. I could only be in there for like 30 seconds maybe, or it was too hot, but really pretty. And then we kept driving. You have all these beautiful views. And a little bit of dirt coming up through there. So it's good to have all-wheel drive or some off-road capable vehicle. And we drove up all the way to the northeast side. There's a port there where, from what I understand from my research, you can come in and do a cruise from Denmark to the Faroe Islands to here. So you come into this small little town. We had lunch, and then we drove back over there's a little pass you go over. Drive back over the pass, and this is the town we stayed in for the night just to sleep. We got pizza, and we did stay at a hotel that was next to a cow farm, really smelly, so I'm not going to give that hotel. I don't want to stay there. And then we drove northwest to this giant waterfall, just epic views, really pretty, kind of in the middle of nowhere, no one around, really no towns that we saw. So we kept driving. We stopped at one grocery store that we found and I had mapped out previously. And then we stayed at this beautiful little cabin. I think there was like 9 cabins here, and they each had their own pool, like hot tub in the back that was, you'd turn a valve to open up and let the water in. And then you'd close the valve to drain the tub. So it was fresh every time. Took about 45 minutes to fill up. Really modern, fun, nice rooms. And there's the tub. So it's empty, and then you fill it and then drain it. And sunset out there. Then we drove west to this town here and just saw some fjords that were just phenomenal. Wasn't expecting to see such beautiful views up here. Makes me think that the West Fjords are probably pretty epic as well. We did find a Fujifilm store here. There was a port here that was very busy, a lot of military ships. And so the Fujifilm store was closed because it was Sunday, unfortunately. And found this street sign, which was fun. A little heart. Then we kept driving west. Just beautiful views the whole way. Came out to this town with this famous little mountain. You probably see this in Game of Thrones, I think it is. And another spot we stopped where there's this big bay and this water was rushing in just like a river. Crazy, crazy rushing. This town has cod and seaweed, and this restaurant is famous for their seaweed wine, which I think is an apple-based wine with seaweed and clove. It's interesting. I did have cod tongue, cheeks, and gills on this plate. It was delicious. And then this is some sort of kind of yogurt seaweed mix, fried seaweed. So it was interesting. It was good, but yeah, it was just interesting. We stayed right next to this mountain at this little like Airbnb cabin, and it had a little kitchen in there. We made dinner, and that was the view out the window, which was epic. And then we walked down to like the beach right here, which is right next to it, and it was very cold, like a very damp 28-degree windy like Arctic wind coming at you. So I had on a beanie, a mask, gloves, and I was okay, but man, it was chilly. Some sheep out here, I think, or rams. Yeah, and then some horses. This is the sunset, and then right with the sunset later that night, we woke up in the middle of the night and saw a little bit of northern lights. Woke up in the morning, and we're greeted with this horse showing off. This actually, I think, is going to be in a travel magazine in Singapore through Fuji guys contest. And then the famous little waterfall, really pretty. Long exposure for you. And then we drove straight south to this famous black church. Fun story, I photographed a birthday party here in Oregon, and the owner of all this property right here is his property. So he was a doctor, and I guess a famous doctor, and he moved to the States and moved back to Iceland, and he owns this land here. He said I drove over his land to get here, so kind of neat. And then we drove towards Reykjavik and passed it out to this tomato farm where they serve everything tomatoes. It's a greenhouse and very like scientific little setup here where they've got them all grown in the middle. They've got bumblebees in here. And just there's the menu. You can see we had green tomato beer, red tomato beer, tomato cocktail, unlimited tomato soup and bread. And then there's basil on the tables, so you can cut fresh basil. And then we finish it off with the tomato ice cream. I think they also had tomato creme brulee. I can't remember. It's really on the menu. But this is a cool photo of just the progression of the tomatoes ripening and just really delicious. So then we ended up back in Reykjavik and just kind of walked the streets, went back to our favorite restaurant, Skull. And just very creative town. I love the vehicles out there. They've got these huge tires that are just so cool. A lot of off-road vehicles, and you can see the artwork throughout the town. More vehicles, and then fun restaurants. I think there's a Chuck Norris bar there, Big Lebowski bar, restaurant. I stopped in for a burger, some fish and chips. Found another Fujifilm store that was open. Went and checked it out. Said hi to all the Fujifilm gear. Then Reykjavik Roasters, pretty much every morning we were in Reykjavik or afternoon. I was there. The coffee is so good. I'm a bit of a coffee, addict, connoisseur snob. So I was really impressed with their coffee. Brought it back, a couple bags of beans, had a good breakfast, and probably one of my favorite photos of my wife. Took right here with some nice window light, the 45 millimeter. And yeah, she is beautiful. She has sunflower eyes, and I'm lucky. All right, and then this spaceship-looking building is actually a church. So we went inside this church, and what's fun is as I've waited 2 years to edit all these photos, it has gotten way better in Lightroom to remove people. I couldn't really remove people from out with these columns with the previous generations of Lightroom in the last year. It has advanced so much that now it's super easy with Content Aware. So Blue Lagoon we saved for last. Blue Lagoon was amazing. It's really pretty. The backstory on Blue Lagoon, if you want to know, is they were drilling for a geothermal power plant, which there is one close by, and they got this silica and salt water that was coming out of the ground, and they pumped it off into these fields, and it clogged up all of the in the lava fields. They thought it would just drain out, and so it looked like a toxic blue hazardous waste material, but there was no, it was all geothermal, it was all just natural. So it was bad PR, but then the workers started going in it and found out that it was good for someone's skin because he had eczema, and there's algae in here, there's salt water, silica. And so a dermatologist in town discovered it from his patients, bought it, and now he's a millionaire. So when you come here, you can do like these silica, they've isolated the silica so you can put it on your face or skin, whatever. They got all kinds of algae treatments. And then when you leave here, you're going to feel almost like you've got something on your skin for at least a day, but it's worth it. It's really fun, really pretty. It was kind of raining that day, and just, yeah, it was perfect. So this pool wasn't, in my opinion, as hot as Sky Lagoon, but it was great. There's like some steam rooms you can go in, and really, really great. So after that, we finished up our trip. We were ready to get home to our kid, and yeah, so I came back. We've been home. It was April, so it's been over 2 years, and just over 2 years. And I finally finished up these images, and hopefully you can enjoy. I'm already planning my trip back. I'm not planning it, but I can't wait to get back, is what I'm saying. So hopefully this video is helpful. If it is, comment, like, subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. Generally, my channel is photography based. I've been a photographer for 17 years. I have traveled a lot around the world. Traveling got me into photography, going to Africa and Philippines, buying cameras in the early 2000s. And by 2006, I had a camera in hand and was learning how to use it. But yeah, mainly I photograph weddings and people and families. So thanks for watching. And again, let me know if this video was helpful. Have a good day.